UFC 290 was one of the best cards in UFC history. It's possibly better than the last best card on International Fight Week, which was UFC 189. From the prelims to the main card, you had a little bit of everything in this event. And ideally, that's what you want as a fan. When you get variety from different fights, it sparks excitement because you don't know what's to come. And that's the best feeling as a fight fan. You had one-round finishes, KOs, wars, skilled chess matches, huge upsets from underdogs, and pure masterclasses in this card. So if you don't know what I'm going to be doing in this video, I'm going to be recapping some of the best fights and moments from UFC 290. I haven't done a video like this and I thought it would be interesting to do so. Usually I like to make in-depth breakdowns of the best and biggest fights of the event. However, on this fight card, there was just so much that I wanted to talk about that I thought maybe a whole video just stating my opinions and reactions could be the way to go. It also gives me an opportunity to be as authentic as I can as a fight fan, because that's the main reason why I created this channel in the first place. So without wasting any time, let's get into it. Alright, so let's start with the main legend, Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is an absolute legend, and he's definitely going to go down as a Hall of Famer. He's been nearing the end of his fighting career for a while now. In my opinion, I thought Robbie was done a few fights ago, and I wanted him to hang up the gloves so badly because it's just not worth continuing to take damage at this stage in your career. I was actually a bit nervous for Robbie in this fight against Nickal because I was having a feeling that Robbie was just going to either engage in a war and lose by decision or actually get stopped. But thank God that the MMA gods exist, because Robbie went out with a fairy tale ending which you don't normally see. You'll see most MMA fighters retire on a bad note. GSP said that certain fighters will let the sport retire them instead of retiring from the sport. And if you look at the history of retirement fights, GSP isn't really wrong. However, Robbie was able to secure a finish in the first round and didn't even take any major damage at all. He came out on his toes moving in and out and was just aggressive early. He landed some counter lefts and decided to make the read to throw a lead uppercut that allowed him to secure the tie clinch. And once this happened, he started raining those left hooks, and once the uppercut landed, that was pretty much all she wrote. The video that the UFC made for him was very touching and emotional as well. It was nice to see Robbie go out the way that he started. Alright, so now Bo Nickal. Listen guys, Bo Nickal made an absolute statement in this fight by winning the fight via first round KO. We obviously know about the wrestling prowess. He's one of the best wrestlers not only in MMA, but in the world. People were expecting Bo to come into this fight and completely ragdoll Woodburn and secure a submission win. However, despite him being pretty much a minus 10,000 favorite to win the fight, the way he was able to knock out Woodburn shows that he has a lot of potential to be great in the sport. People initially thought that he was only a wrestler that's just going to dive for legs and not work on the technicality of MMA in order to maximize its effectiveness. But that's clearly not the case. Bo looked super explosive. The way he feinted low in order to leap in with that lead hook and then follow up with a straight left and then a rear uppercut was just amazing. I mean, talk about shot selection and patience. Do you know how many people would have started rushing and shooting for a takedown if they were in Bo's position? Instead, he was calm and landed the right shot to put out his opponent. The precision was also on point as well. If Bo can continue to expand his striking game as well as his MMA knowledge, it's going to be very tough for anyone in that middleweight division to stop him. Alright, so now moving on to the third fight on the main card, Robert Whittaker versus DRICUS du Plessis. Fam, I can't believe DDP actually beat Rob. Like, I literally cannot believe it at all. I thought Bobby Knuckles was going to put an absolute beating on this man so badly, and instead the simulation got cracked. I didn't think DRICUS was even able to look competitive against Rob, let alone finish him in this fight. Rob is an amazing fighter. He's easily the second best middleweight behind Israel Adesanya. If you disregard his fights with Izzy, the guy would realistically be a dominant champion for about a decade in that middleweight division. And when you watch him fight, you can see why that is. On the other hand, DRICUS has had some very ugly and poor looking wins. It's looking like he's barely scraping by guys like Darren Till and Derek Brunson. These performances aren't special or considered masterclasses by any means. He's pretty much dogging it out against these guys. But apparently that helped him in this fight, because in this fight, I'm going to be a bit more analytical for this fight compared to all the other fights, but in this fight, DDP had a good game plan. He was applying constant pressure from the start of the fight up until the end. And this was crucial because it forced Rob to operate more on the back foot where he was close to the cage. Rob is much better when he's in the center of the octagon. Another thing DRICUS did very well was being defensively responsible, and he did it in a very efficient way. He didn't try to use head movement or fancy footwork. He was simply just sliding out of range with a tight high guard. And I thought that was pretty much what nullified the effectiveness of Rob's offense. The reason for that is because Rob is a headhunter. Credit to Luke Thomas, but he mentioned that the percentages from Rob's head, body, and leg attacks usually heavily favor the head and a little for the legs, but rarely to the body. So if you compare that to the way Rob fights, you would know that that is true. He loves his karate blitzes, his jab with his head off the center line, his darting right hands, and as they slide out, he'll step off the center line to throw a right high kick. All of these attacks usually come to the head. Occasionally, you'll see some rear leg kicks and the oblique kick as well. But again, little body work here for Bobby Knuckles. On top of that, Rob didn't throw enough volume in my opinion. There were moments where he caught DRICUS when he opened up with clean strikes, but it seemed like it wasn't enough to get his respect. DRICUS was also looking for that left body kick for most of the fight, and Rob was able to counter him with jabs and right hands in a few exchanges. He also took DRICUS down, but didn't do a good job of holding him down. And DRICUS ends up taking Rob down towards the end of the first round, a very awkwardly executed takedown. In my opinion, I thought Rob could have defended it better, but DRICUS makes good use of it by landing brutal elbows that actually cut Rob open, and he was also looking for many Darce choke opportunities as well. Then in the next round, he continues to stay on the front foot and catches Rob clean on the chin with the lead jab. Rob tries to counter and time DRICUS like how he's been doing for the majority of the fight, but credit to DRICUS, he got to his punch first. And this shows that Rob can get hurt if you hit him clean with the right shot. IZZY was able to finish him, Cannonier actually rocked him with the same punch, and DRICUS was able to drop him. And the finishing sequence was great because DRICUS didn't rush with punches. Instead, he kicked the legs, and then he attacked the body, and eventually worked up top to secure the stoppage victory. Then after the fight, IZZY ends up getting in the cage to cut a bit of promo for their upcoming fight, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't like it. Usually when a fighter wins and another fighter gets in the cage to face off with them, it kind of feels like their moment is getting stripped away from them from their future opponent. That's just one of the reasons why I don't really like the immediate face-offs after the fight. But as far as the promo itself, I thought it was messy. IZZY was just spamming the N-word 1,000 times. I'm not gonna even cap, if DRICUS would have said the N-word back, I would have been finished, bro. IZZY sounded drunk as well, cause my mans was talking about 36 and me, and then he changed it to 26 and me, when it's actually 23 and me. DRICUS had a good line when he said, "I'm African, but I ain't no brother of yours." But overall, I thought the face-off was a bit cringe. Y'all know I'm a big IZZY fan, but I keep it real out here. People think DRICUS can beat IZZY, or should I say hope that he beats IZZY. But regardless, I'm excited for that fight, and I'll drop a more in-depth prediction when we get closer to that fight. Alright, so Moreno versus Pantoja. This fight was absolutely amazing. This was the definition of a championship fight because it had everything: blood, violence, heart, and championship IQ. Pantoja ended up winning the flyweight title, and I agree with the decision, but some people actually don't. And I can understand an argument for Moreno to win, but for me, I think it's either 48-47 or 49-46 Pantoja. I don't see how Moreno can clearly win 3 rounds. I love Moreno. To quote Dana White, he's effing awesome inside and outside of the cage. He's got an amazing skill set in his division. He can box, wrestle, grapple, and most importantly, fight. Pantoja has also beaten Moreno twice before, so obviously we have that mental aspect of the game. On top of that, Moreno has gotten a lot better since those last meetings. Even though he didn't win the fight, if you compare his last performance against Pantoja and compare it to this performance, you'll see a new and revamped fighter. However, sometimes your best isn't enough in this game because Moreno got out-grappled and even outstruck in moments of the fight. Moreno is a much better boxer fundamentally as an MMA fighter compared to Pantoja. His long and snappy jab was coming from his hip and landing at will. It was setting up a lot of his boxing combos. However, he was landing punches, but the threat was more volume than power. I thought he and Pantoja landed a lot of similar punches like the left hook and the left hook to the body, but the power difference was very noticeable. Pantoja had a very big first round, dropping Moreno and forcing him to face a bit of adversity as the champ. Moreno came back and had a big comeback round by landing some beautiful boxing combos that lit Pantoja up. However, from round 3 and after that, I thought Pantoja made a great adjustment of jabbing with Moreno and landing the rear uppercut behind it to break Moreno's guard. Once he started to have success here, then he started to implement the wrestling, and Moreno ended up in a lot of terrible positions where Pantoja was on his back just controlling him and threatening with submissions. And this is where some people start to argue that Moreno did more damage, so therefore he should win some of the close rounds. However, in my opinion, unless he's landing a lot more than Pantoja, or he stuns him, or he drops him, I think Pantoja's ground control accounts for more because he's controlling Moreno in a dominant position. The only rounds I could see Moreno winning were 2 and possibly 3 and 4, but I didn't score it that way. I thought Pantoja won 4 rounds from great grappling and winning the cleaner boxing exchanges later down in the fight. Congrats to him because he has been clearly going through a tough battle with his relationship with his father. Alright, so it is time for the main event of the evening, VOLK versus Yair. If this fight doesn't prove that VOLK is pound for pound number 1, then I do not know what will. First of all, I don't even think John Jones should be pound for pound number 1, but that's a whole different convo for a different video. VOLK put on an amazing performance against Yair Rodriguez. He dominated by using his offensive wrestling, distance management, feints, stance switching, and timing. Like I said in my prediction video, look for VOLK to use his wrestling in this fight. VOLK is a great striker, but he's ultimately an all-around fighter. He's a threat everywhere. There was clearly a discrepancy in the wrestling department. VOLK was a much better wrestler, and he looked much stronger than Yair. The takedowns were coming in effortlessly. And this is one of the reasons why VOLK's last fight at 155 against Islam wasn't really a loss, because now everything that he had gained in his last fight is benefiting him at 145. The size and strength that he put on was evident. Yair Rodriguez started the fight off in the southpaw stance, and he was looking to approach it just like how he approached the Emmett fight. He was looking to stay in his kicking range to blast those left kicks to the body. Both men were feinting a lot too. You can tell what both guys wanted to do and what they were setting up. But very quickly you can see that VOLK wasn't content with keeping the fight in the center and instead started to pressure forward with subtle stance switches. Doing this made Yair reluctant to open up with kicks because there wasn't a clear target for him to attack. Ideally, he would want to operate in a closed stance, but VOLK wasn't giving that to him. It threw Yair off at the beginning of the fight because he was switching stances to only try to obtain that close stance between him and VOLK. He either wanted him to be in a southpaw and VOLK to be in an orthodox stance, or vice versa. However, in the moments where he did find openings to throw kicks to the head, oh my god was it scary. And this is where VOLK is continuing to present problems regarding kick defense. VOLK was either pulling his head out of range, rolling with the kick, or blocking it with one hand. And that is very, very dangerous. Kicks aren't meant to be blocked with only one hand unless you're Thanos. The way he blocked those kicks from Yair was very risky because they still could have inflicted damage despite it being addressed. But nevertheless, VOLK was able to catch a kick from Yair in one of the striking exchanges, and he actually prevented him from landing a switch kick. From there, he took Yair down and moved him up against the cage to his corner, and he had his way. He was avoiding elbows from Yair, defended submissions, and rained down ground and pound strikes. It was also crazy how he can just stand in Yair's guard because of the way he's built. VOLK was also looking for an arm triangle attempt, which was interesting, and the strength of his wrestling when he was able to just trip and then drag Yair to the mat after he got up was crazy. In the second round, Yair starts to open up with kicks, and since VOLK would just slide out of range when Yair would kick, Yair then adjusted by leading with his hands to get VOLK to slide out first, and then following up with a kick either to the leg or to the head as VOLK would exit out. Some of the kicks he threw were so fast and accurate. He was able to touch VOLK with a front kick up the middle as VOLK stepped into range. Then VOLK tries to throw a feint right hand to then follow up with a jab, a combo that he loves to throw, and you saw it a lot against Max Holloway in the third fight. However, he ends up eating a clean right hand from Yair in the process, head off the center line, and VOLK walks right into it. But he used that momentum to shoot for a double leg, dump him, and then take his back. And from there, it was the same story. Yair was just getting ragdolled. Yair was starting to land some great strikes in the third round. He was again closing the distance with straight punches and finished his combos with kicks either coming down or over the top. And funny enough, the way Yair was blitzing VOLK with an uppercut, right hand over the top, and then followed up with a leg kick was actually the same way VOLK was blitzing Islam in their fight. But Yair was able to do a much better job in terms of setting up the question mark kick by attacking the body with teeps and even leg kicks as well. He was doing a good job of defending low kicks on the other end by either checking or hollowing out to not allow VOLK's leg kicks to land. However, this is where VOLK was able to read Yair. There were moments when VOLK was able to catch Yair with the same combo that finished him, southpaw stance switch into a lead right hook. It would happen every single time when Yair defends a kick and then looks to attack by either countering with a straight punch or a kick. The same way Brian Ortega and Islam would attack VOLK when VOLK would try to open up with a leg kick. So since VOLK was still sliding out of range due to Yair's punches and ultimately being in range for Yair's kicks, He later adjusted by switching stances again and jamming Yair from kicking him clean, and then he threw a picture-perfect right hook again and it stuns Yair. Instead of sliding out of range, he stays in his boxing range and counters beautifully. And VOLK smells blood by walking him down against the cage. Yair shells up, VOLK shoots for a double leg and dumps him again. Add some ground and pound strikes and boom, VOLK is still the featherweight king. A brilliant display of skill, game planning, IQ, and well-roundedness. Now the question is, where does VOLK go from here? Well, considering that he has to get hand surgery and he most likely won't be ready for Abu Dhabi against Islam, I think he should fight Topuria. In that case, VOLK will have beaten everybody in the top 5 and he won't have to worry about holding up the division when he challenges for the lightweight strap again. If he beats Topuria and potentially Aljo at 145, he's going to be the featherweight GOAT. Listen, I love Aldo as well, but at that point, you can't deny VOLK's legacy. I think he would have done a lot more than Aldo at that point to be the featherweight GOAT. But again, this is a whole nother convo for a different video, but you get the point. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to what I have to say, and let me know, which fight did you enjoy the most on the card? Which performance on this card impressed you the most? Drop a comment and let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoy content that is related to combat sports, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Please also make sure to follow me on my Twitter as well. And other than that, it's been Steven, signing out. Peace.